In 2013, guests at a Los Angeles hotel were complaining. The water was black, the smell was horrific. When the rooftop water tank was opened, floating inside was the body of a young woman. But how did this girl get there, where the door was locked, and the tank lid was so heavy that one person couldn't lift it alone? 21-year-old Elisa Lam was living her dream. A Canadian student from the University of British Columbia, she had always wanted to travel alone and discover herself. In January 2013, she finally took that leap, a solo trip down the west coast of America. San Diego, Santa Cruz, and finally Los Angeles. On January 31st, she checked into a budget hotel in downtown LA called the Cecil Hotel. It was affordable, centrally located, perfect for a backpacker. But what Elisa didn't know was that she had just walked into one of America's most notorious buildings. The Cecil Hotel wasn't just any hotel. Built in 1924, it had witnessed over 15 deaths within its walls. In the 1940s and 50s, multiple people had committed suicide by jumping from its windows. In the 1960s, the infamous serial killer Richard Ramirez, known as the Night Stalker, had stayed there. In the 1990s, another serial killer, Jack Unterweger, murdered 3 sex workers while staying at the Cecil. Guests frequently reported strange noises, doors opening by themselves, and an overwhelming feeling of dread. The hotel sat in Skid Row, one of LA's most dangerous neighborhoods, surrounded by homelessness, drugs, and crime. But Elisa was optimistic and excited. For the first few days, she maintained regular contact with her parents back in Canada. She called them every day, shared stories about her adventures, sent photos. Her parents could hear the joy in her voice. Then, on January 31st, 2013, everything changed. That was the last time anyone heard from Elisa Lam. The next day, her parents tried calling. No answer. They tried again. And again. Nothing. Panic set in. They immediately contacted the Los Angeles Police Department. The police took the report seriously and rushed to the Cecil Hotel. Detectives searched her room. Her belongings were still there, untouched. They searched the common areas, the basement, the hallways. Nothing. Hotel staff were questioned. The last time anyone had seen Elisa was in the lobby. But after that, she had simply vanished. Days turned into a week. The police put up missing person posters all over downtown LA. They interviewed dozens of people. They checked surveillance footage from nearby businesses. But there was no trace of Elisa Lam anywhere. It was as if she had disappeared into thin air. Then, the LAPD made a decision that would change everything. On February 14, 2013, they released a piece of surveillance footage from inside the Cecil Hotel, footage from an elevator. They hoped someone somewhere might recognize something that could help find Elisa. But when the public saw that footage, it didn't just generate leads. It shocked the entire world. The video showed Elisa Lam entering the hotel elevator alone. She pressed multiple buttons and waited. But the elevator door didn't close. She stood there, waiting, looking slightly confused. Then, suddenly, she stepped toward the corridor and peeked her head out, looking left and right, as if checking whether someone was there. She stepped back inside and pressed herself into the corner of the elevator, hiding. A few seconds passed. Then she emerged again, this time stepping partially out into the corridor. She looked left, then right, then left again. Her movements were cautious, almost fearful, as if she was searching for someone or hiding from someone. She went back into the elevator and pressed more buttons. This time, it appeared she pressed buttons for multiple floors, almost frantically. The door still wouldn't close. Then came the part that made millions of viewers' blood run cold. Elisa stood in front of the elevator and began waving her hands in the air. Her fingers moved in strange, contorted positions, bending at odd angles. She appeared to be talking or arguing with someone, but there was no one there. Her hand gestures were erratic, almost as if she was trying to explain something or reason with an invisible presence. This continued for what felt like an eternity, 4 full minutes of bizarre behavior. Finally, she stepped out of the elevator frame and disappeared. The elevator door closed, and it began moving. The internet exploded. The footage went viral overnight. Millions of people watched it, rewound it, analyzed every frame. Who was she hiding from? Who was she talking to? Was she on drugs? Was she having a mental breakdown? Was someone actually chasing her that the camera couldn't see? Was this paranormal? Theories flooded the internet, but Elisa Lam was still missing. Then, 5 days after the footage was released, 19 days after Elisa disappeared, hotel guests began complaining about the water. The pressure was low. The water came out discolored, almost black. There was a horrible, putrid smell. Some guests even said the water tasted strange. Hotel maintenance staff were sent to investigate the rooftop water supply. On the roof of the Cecil Hotel stood 4 large water tanks, each about 10 feet tall and 4 feet in diameter. These tanks supplied water to the entire building. A maintenance worker climbed the ladder to one of the tanks and opened the heavy lid. What he saw made him stumble backward in horror. Floating inside the dark water was the naked body of Elisa Lam. She had been there for 19 days. And during that time, hundreds of hotel guests had been drinking that water, showering in it, brushing their teeth with it, cooking with it. The police were called immediately. The Los Angeles County coroner arrived. Elisa's body was carefully removed from the tank. But as the investigation began, so did an even deeper mystery. Because the question wasn't just how Elisa died. The question was, how did she get into that water tank in the first place? The rooftop of the Cecil Hotel was not easily accessible. The door leading to the roof was locked at all times. Only hotel staff had keys. There was also an alarm system. If anyone opened that door without authorization, an alarm would sound. But no alarm had gone off. So how did Elisa get to the roof? Even if she somehow accessed the roof, the water tank presented another impossibility. The tank was 10 feet tall. Elisa was only 5'4" and petite. The tank lid was made of heavy metal, weighing at least 20 pounds. It required significant strength to lift. How did someone of Elisa's size climb up the tank and lift that heavy lid by herself? And even if, somehow, she managed to climb up and open the lid, getting inside was no simple task. The opening was relatively small. She would have had to pull herself up and maneuver her body through the opening. It was physically demanding, even for someone athletic. But here's where it gets even stranger. When Elisa's body was found, she was completely naked. Her clothes and belongings were found floating separately in the water. Why would she remove all her clothes before getting into the tank? And perhaps most baffling of all, when the maintenance worker discovered her body, the tank lid was closed. If Elisa had climbed into the tank herself, how did the lid close behind her? Did someone else close it? If so, who? Every single aspect of this seemed physically impossible for Elisa to have done alone. The Los Angeles County coroner performed a thorough autopsy. The toxicology report showed no alcohol in her system, no recreational drugs. She had traces of her prescribed medications. Elisa suffered from bipolar disorder and depression, but nothing at dangerous levels. There were no signs of physical trauma on her body, no evidence of sexual assault, no defensive wounds, no signs of struggle. The official cause of death was listed as accidental drowning, with bipolar disorder noted as a significant contributing factor. But this conclusion satisfied almost no one. The physical evidence simply didn't add up. How could this be an accident? Theories began to emerge from every corner. Some believed it was suicide, that Elisa, suffering from a mental health crisis, had climbed into the tank intentionally to end her life. But this didn't explain how she accessed the locked roof, lifted the heavy lid, or why she would choose such a complicated method. Others believed it was murder. Someone had killed Elisa and placed her body in the water tank to hide the evidence. But there were no signs of struggle, no trauma, no suspects, and no clear motive. The locked rooftop door and the closed tank lid made this theory equally problematic. The most widely accepted theory among experts was that Elisa had experienced a severe manic or psychotic episode related to her bipolar disorder. The elevator footage seemed to support this. Her behavior suggested she was in a state of extreme confusion or paranoia. Perhaps, in her disoriented state, she somehow found her way to the roof and climbed into the water tank, not fully understanding what she was doing. This theory had merit. Bipolar disorder can cause episodes where individuals act in ways that seem impossible or irrational. Medical records later revealed that Elisa had not been taking her medications as prescribed in the days leading up to her disappearance. But even this theory couldn't answer all the questions. How did she access the locked roof? How did someone so small lift that heavy lid? How did the lid close after she got inside? Some people, particularly those familiar with the Cecil Hotel's dark history, believed something paranormal was at play. They pointed to the elevator footage, the way Elisa seemed to be interacting with someone or something invisible. They noted the hotel's history of death and tragedy. Ghost stories and urban legends had surrounded the Cecil for decades. Was Elisa haunted? Possessed? Lured to her death by some malevolent presence? This theory, while not scientifically supported, gained significant traction online. Thousands of people who watched the footage felt there was something otherworldly about Elisa's behavior. Then there were the conspiracy theorists who believed the hotel itself was involved in a cover-up. They claimed staff members had access to the roof and could have been involved. They questioned why the investigation seemed rushed and why certain details were never fully explained. But there was no concrete evidence to support these claims. The truth is, despite all the investigations, all the theories, all the analysis, we still don't definitively know what happened to Elisa Lam. Her family was devastated. They filed a wrongful death lawsuit against the Cecil Hotel, claiming the hotel had been negligent in providing adequate security. The case was dismissed in 2015, with the court ruling that the hotel could not be held responsible for Elisa's death. The Cecil Hotel's reputation, already dark, became even more notorious. Bookings plummeted. People were horrified by the thought of staying in a place where someone had died in the water supply. In 2014, the hotel was partially converted into low-income housing. In 2017, it was sold, with plans announced for renovation and rebranding. But the story of Elisa Lam didn't fade. If anything, it grew. The internet kept the mystery alive. True crime enthusiasts dissected every detail. Amateur detectives proposed new theories. The elevator footage was watched millions upon millions of times, with people analyzing every frame, every gesture, searching for clues. In 2021, Netflix released a 4-part documentary series called Crime Scene: The Vanishing at the Cecil Hotel. The series reignited global interest in the case, introducing Elisa's story to a new generation of viewers. The mystery was as compelling as ever. So what really happened to Elisa Lam on that January night in 2013? Was it a tragic accident, the result of a young woman struggling with mental illness who found herself in a terrible situation? Was it murder, carefully concealed to look like an accident? Or was it something else entirely, something we can't fully explain or understand? The official answer is accidental death. But the unanswered questions, the physical impossibilities, the disturbing elevator footage, these keep the case alive in the minds of millions around the world. Elisa Lam went to Los Angeles seeking adventure and self-discovery. Instead, she became part of one of the most haunting unsolved mysteries of the 21st century. The Cecil Hotel, the elevator, the water tank, they've all become symbols of a tragedy that defies easy explanation. And somewhere in all of this is the truth about what happened to a 21-year-old girl who just wanted to see the world. What do you think happened to Elisa Lam? Was it mental illness, murder, or something paranormal? Share your theory in the comments below. If this story gave you chills, make sure to hit that like button. And if you want to see more unsolved mysteries like this, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications.